Yo, what's up, everybody? We got a new season. It's the Savage Land. I'm pretty fired up about it. Now, they covered a lot of this in the developers update on the main official Marvel Snap YouTube channel. Go check out that update. It's really funny with Ben Brode, and they cover a lot of awesome stuff. But I wanted to talk about the new cards that they kind of sneak peeked that are going to be coming this month. And I think I'm going to start doing this at the start of every month when they announce the cards that are going to be coming. Right now, they're all jumping into Series 5 whenever they're released, which is kind of a bummer. I was kind of hoping they'd do something about that, or at least change the last month's series, but whatever, they're not doing that. I just want to talk about the cards, give them a rating, provide a deck that it might work in, right? Some synergistic cards, and then let you guys know when they're going to come out. So we got Zabu here. He is the season pass card, so you've probably seen all kinds of content about him already, so I'm not going to go into too detail of this card. I'm going to be playing it a bunch this week. It's really strong. I'm giving it 4.5. It's close to 5, but I think it lacks the 5th star because it's a little bit inconsistent. You don't always draw Zabu, and then maybe you kind of brick your hand because you put a bunch of 4-cost things. So it doesn't work all the time, but when it works, it's insane. And then it works with Sarah for further discounts. You can play like 6 4-drops on turns. Like it's nuts. We pulled off some crazy combos on stream. So a lot of people are having fun with this card. I think, honestly, the card, unfortunately, kind of makes the season pass worth it despite no tokens in the season pass. The card is just straight up powerful enough, which is almost kind of sad because it instills a bit of a pay to win scenario in Marvel Snap, which I don't think it's 100% that way, but this card is very strong right now, and I'd recommend maybe picking up the season pass if you think the price is reasonable. The locations at the top here are going to be rolling out once a week. Now, if you're not familiar with the channel, we cover this every Tuesday night. I try to be one of the first ones to get content out here with gameplay of the locations, so definitely subscribe if you want to check these out when they're released. Get some little tips, tricks, anything like that, anything that I can find out about the location, I let you guys know. And they're rolling out every week. There's some really interesting ones. In particular, I'm excited for Plunder Castle. That seems really fun. Only 6-cost cards can be played there. So you gotta get like tokens out there with like White Tiger or something, or you just shoot off your big 6-drop and hope it's big enough to beat your opponent. Very cool, but probably leader infested. But regardless, Altar of Death is really cool for destroy decks as well. So I'm excited for those ones, but we'll cover them shortly. But let's get into the other 4 new cards. All right, the first one we got here is Sauron. Okay, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings. That's what I think of every time. But he's the little dino lover who wants to not cure cancer and turn everyone into dinos, as I understand it from the lore, which is kind of funny. Okay, so his ability is on reveal, remove the abilities from all ongoing cards in your hand or deck. Sound familiar? Well, it's very similar to Zero, which I have in the deck up here. So he removes the ability of the next card you play. That could be literally anything. Okay, this is just ongoing tags. But fortunately for Sauron here, a lot of the negative effects in Marvel Snap tend to be ongoing effects, or at least the ones that are going to deeply affect the power levels on the board. For instance, Red Skull is going to give like +8 power to your opponent's side if they fill that location, or Typhoid Mary is giving -1 to all your others. Lizard gets -3 if your opponent has filled their location. You can stop all of that negative power with Sauron here. So I don't know if it's very powerful. I'm giving it 3 stars only because it feels a little bit inconsistent as well, because you know you can play this and then you gotta hope that you draw those cards, right? So you gotta get Sauron out early, and then on 4, 5, 6 you hope those 3 draws, unless you have another means of drawing, ends up being one of those cards that got affected, like Typhoid Mary, Red Skull, Lizard. Fortunately, right now, there's not enough negative ongoing effects in the game to make it so that it's always 100% guaranteed that you're going to draw one of those cards. Unfortunately, there's going to be other cards in your deck that you're going to have to fill, and you might draw those instead, and the consistency just quite isn't there. Now, when you put it in a deck like this, though, when you're also running Zero and Enchantress, well, now you can pretty well guarantee that if you do draw those cards, maybe they didn't get affected by Sauron, but you can probably remove their abilities one way or another via Zero, Enchantress, or Sauron. So I actually really like this deck. It's turning out to be really strong in the meta right now. It also runs Shuri. I think that's a great add in here, but I have Dracula instead because I don't have Shuri, but you could swap one or the other. But Dracula basically will just discard. Maybe if you never got to play Infinite, you never got to play Red Skull, America Chavez comes in the hand at 6, well, boom, he's going to have a good enough power. And honestly, with like 4 4-drops, you could almost put Zabu in this deck, right? There's a lot of flexibility here, but I just wanted to emphasize the cards that would have negative ongoing abilities that we could remove. Another other one's Electro and Ebony Maw that I didn't mention. Those have really bad ongoing abilities, and if we could get rid of those, it'd be fantastic. So in this deck, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total ongoing abilities that you want to remove. That's pretty good. I think that's like good value for Sauron. I'm excited for this card, but let me tell you guys, it's coming out January 10th, Series 5, 6,000 tokens. Dude, I'm trying to keep it free to play up in here. I don't spend a whole lot of money on this game. And let me tell you, there's no shot I can get this card with the current economy, okay? I'm trying to save up for Shuri, which I have pinned in the shop, and this guy's coming out in a week, no chance. And there's one other card on this list that I might be a little bit more interested in, but this one's very close to the top because I like this archetype in Marvel Snap. All right, next up is Shanna the She-Devil. She is a 4-cost 2-power. On reveal, add a random 1-cost card to each location. I am giving her 1 star. I think this is the weakest of the bunch. For a few reasons, I don't like this card. And I see the value, right? This could be a lot of power, right? For its ability, for 4 cost, and you could even discount that with Zabu. I understand that. It could be a couple 3 power, 1 cost stuff. I'm sure of it. Even Ant-Man maybe in this 4 power. Who knows? It could be value, okay? But here's a couple of my issues. 1, it's random. You don't know. It could be the hood, and that sucks. Maybe you get the demon, that's okay, and it maybe works with your plan, but you got -2 power out there, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's not great. Or it could be, I don't know, anything else, and it would be really bad. When it says add, I'm pretty sure it triggers the on reveal abilities. So then, like, if it's 0, then the next card you play, it won't have an ability. There's just a few awkward things. Even Blade discarding, it's like, oh no, why did it do that? Squirrel Girl would be terrible. It puts a bunch of squirrels. Maybe it works with your plan because I tried to build a deck here that works with 1-drops and buffing them. Maybe that works with your plan, but Shanna on her own is going to fill 4 spots of your location. I also want to clarify, I was comparing this with Debris, and Debris specifically mentions that she puts rocks at each location for both players. This only says add a random 1-cost card to each location, so I think it's in reference only your side of the board, right? And Shanna's going to be there herself, and it doesn't say other, so it's going to fill her location and the 2 adjacent or whatever. It's going to go 3 1-drops. That's the way I interpret this text. So that means she is taking up 4 slots of your locations, right? That is 1/3 of all your available locations. So I don't know. I think it gets really clustered, random, hard to pull off. The Kazoo deck isn't even that great. Literally dies to Killmonger. Killmonger just feasts on this card, and he's cheaper. So it's like, I don't know. And he's one of the most run cards in all of Marvel Snap. So it's just really tricky situation. I'm sure it could be fun. I don't want to totally knock on this card. I have no problem if somebody is really hyped to get this card. I think that's great. I just would never, ever pay 6K tokens for a card like this. Let me tell you. My goodness, this should not have been in Series 5 right away. I don't think we'll see this card for like another month or very sparingly when it's released. But you can't knock the fact that it does work with Zabu, and then you can buff a bunch of things with Kazar Blue Marvel. And the deck above is somewhat, I put a few different cards like Bass I thought would work really well. There's not too many high power stuff here. And then Mojo I think works really well because you're flooding. But overall, you could substitute those, and all of a sudden you got a fairly Series 1-2 deck, right? The flood stuff tends to work early on in your collection. So maybe Shanna's a good one for that if you happen to pull her, or you pull together 6K tokens and you're excited for this type of deck. So maybe it's good for those players, but I think for the most part, we're going to be disappointed about this one and not really see it in a lot of play. All right, next up we have the Dazzler, and I am also giving her a low star rating. She gets 2 stars. This one's a little bit different, but she's a 4-cost 4-power ongoing. If you have 4 cards at each location plus 6 power, essentially you have to fill your entire side of the board, and that isn't actually that difficult. I think you can do that if you build the right deck for it. It's going to be okay to pull that off. The only problem I have with her is that she's then just a 4/10, and that's good value. But with a condition like this, maybe it's a little bit tricky. Now, you can have some sneaky combos. I won't deny it, okay? Mojo, if he's out on the field and you fill all this up, he's going to be easy 2/8. He gets plus 6 power if both sides of the locations are filled up, right? And then Onslaught, if you double this, you stack Onslaught on top of Dazzler, boom, she's got 12 power. She's a 416. Dude, that's insane. So, like, I could see the power there, but I just don't know if it's good enough to build a deck around. The Ultron deck here is a pretty standard deck, actually, for getting to high ranks. You play Magic, or you ramp up with Wave or something, and you're able to play Ultron, Onslaught, Blue Marvel Kazar at the location. It fills up all the things, or Patriot as well. And then basically, you have 2 locations full of drones, and they're all getting buffed like crazy from this Onslaught, Patriot, Kazar shenanigans. I can imagine that you just swap one of the positions at that buff location, and you put in Dazzler, and all of a sudden you're actually winning that location, because usually you kind of forfeit it because some of those cards don't have a lot of power, whereas the drones are going to have a lot of power. So maybe this deck works beautifully. Maybe Dazzler could be 3 stars. Honestly, I could see her being 3, but that's a rough constraint because, you know, your opponent likes to run disruption. What if they play Professor X before you're able to flood all 3 locations? No value from Dazzler. What if they Killmonger on turn 6? What if they Shang-Chi on turn 6 and they destroy anything? I don't know, anything that you've been trying to set up and they destroy it? Bad news. Also, what if it's a location that actually can't roster 4 cards? Think about the Space Throne. Only 1 card can be there. Ouch, that's going to be tough to do. Or even Vormir, hard to get cards there. I don't know. I'm sure there's a few places that are going to make it tricky to get this be consistent. So that's why I just don't know how I feel about this. Again, it's with Shanna the She-Devil. Would I pay 6k tokens for a card with this effect that needs a lot of support on her own? No, dude. Running theme here, and I hate to throw this one home all the time, but it's just facts. If you want to get this card, feel free to get this card. This is your money. You can do what you want, your tokens. But for me personally, this is not on my hit list. This is probably not a card I'm going to have for quite some time. But the next one is a maybe. The Shadow King. Dude, this one was a surprise. I didn't see anyone data mine this. Not in this version, and also not that it would be coming out with this season pass. This was a total surprise by Team Second Dinner, and I'm here for it. It looks really exciting. The only thing about this card, I'm going to say it before I even read the text, is I think this is going to be annoying at some point because it's going to be pretty good. So Shadow King is a 4 cost, 3 power. On reveal, set all cards here to their original base power. So let me just provide you a few examples, okay? We got Angela Bishop, right? They like to stack a whole bunch. Nope, you're back to 0 and 1 respectively, okay? Let's say Mojo got his buff. Nope, you're going back to 2. Black Panther on reveal triggered and he doubled his power. No, sir, you're going back to 4. Whatever it said on your text, you're going back to that original power. Now, you could maybe increase the power after you've played Shadow King. Like Angela could start stacking afterwards if your opponent totally whiffed. It's only going to have an on reveal on that turn. But I imagine you're probably playing this card in the late game to have a huge swing. I tried looking through a lot of cards in the collection to see if any actually get negative power over time. Like they start at a high power total and then maybe it gets reduced, but there's not really anything like that. So I don't see Shadow King actually working with your cards. I see this being used as a pure control card. Now there are a few things that kind of synergize, right? You have Zabu, okay? He's a 4 cost. Anytime we see a 4 cost now, guys, it's changed the game. Zabu has changed the game. We have to think about synergies with Zabu, okay? And then also Lizard. Lizard gets -3 power, so I guess he kind of works that way, but maybe your opponent didn't even play 4 cards and then Shadow King would whiff, but it's there. Another one is Typhoid Mary. She's giving negative power to your stuff. Maybe you play it. The only thing is you'd have to do that on turn 6 because her ability is ongoing, so I imagine just the following turn, it would go back to that -1 across your board. And this is only at 1 location, right? So we have to keep that in mind. And another thing I wasn't too sure about, but we saw it in the developer video, is it's not just here like your location, it's your opponent. So it's a lane. It's 1 location, okay? Another card I thought maybe Arnim Zola. Like what if your opponent's entire game plan is buffing their card and then you Shadow King 1 lane and then on turn 6 you Shadow King the other 2 lanes just to totally decimate whatever power they've been trying to stack? I feel like that could be funny. Is that viable? Probably not. The deck above that I have, I feel like is the most viable application, and that's just in the good cards deck. This deck above me typically runs Shang-Chi as a counter. I feel like Shadow King is just a better Shang-Chi in most case scenarios. Not every scenario. Obviously, Shang-Chi has a lot of value, right? But I feel like Shadow King will really decimate those sunspots or anything early as well. You got to watch out to not hit your own stuff, of course. Unlike Shang-Chi, who's just going to destroy your opponent's cards. But still, I feel like this deck, which I know we're frustrated with, it's probably going to get nerfs, right? There's a balance patch coming tomorrow, so maybe take these decks with a grain of salt. But that Leech Leader combo, Shadow King to ruin the power of your opponent, it's just a total annoyer, total control deck, total tech card deck. Shadow King, he kind of is a tech card, really. If Angela, Bishop, these kinds of things became really popular, I'm sure I'm missing a number of cards that grow in power over time. But if any of those become popular, boom, Shadow King becomes super popular. But here we go. Here is the ongoing issue. 6K token. Series 5 card. It tends to be the trend here. I don't know if they're ever going to change it, and I hope they do, and this is temporary, and they're trying to work out the best way possible. I still have faith in the team, don't get me wrong. But so far, all the cards are being released in Series 5. Really, really difficult to acquire them from any free method, right? If you're just accumulating tokens over the course of the season, you might get enough to buy one of these cards if you're post Series 3, okay? Without actually spending money. So, am I getting Sauron? Am I getting Shadow King? I don't know if I'll get either, to be honest with you. I'm getting Shuri, first of all. I'm getting close to her. But then if I had to pick between one of these, I actually think I'll go with Shadow King, just because I think he's going to have a lot of viability in a bunch of decks. So it seems like a worthwhile 6K token buy. But does that mean you should do it? I don't know, dude. You got to just, look at your wallet and see what's going on there and see if it's worth it if you're super into this card. Mind you, it doesn't come out until January 31st. We're not going to see this guy for another month. So you have some time to think about it. Who knows? Maybe they even change him. I don't think they've ever done that from a reveal video and then changed him afterwards on release. But guys, you just got to pay attention. You just got to know what you want. Don't drop the money on these new cards just because they're new. Some of them aren't all that great despite having the Series 5 tech. You got to keep that in mind, okay? There's a lot better cards in Series 3 if you haven't accumulated those. Hopefully, you start dropping Series 4 and 5 into a reasonable price range. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Let me know below which card you would buy if you have the available tokens, which one you're excited about. I want to hear it. And we're going to do this every month. Every time they announce the new cards that are coming this month, we're going to cover them, give them a rating, and see how they do. All right, thank you for tuning in. Snap subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and I'll catch you guys next time.